Today, we're looking at incredible jades from Mason-Kay Jade and discussing Jadeite Jade quality. We'll be comparing good quality to truly fine jades and even one Imperial Jade piece, and I'll explain what the real meaning of Imperial Jade is. This video would not be possible without Mason-Kay, who kindly let me record video of some of their fine jade pieces so that I can show examples for educational purposes. This is not a sales event. You won't see these pieces up for sale on Mason-Kay's website. But if you are interested in purchasing one of the pieces shown, you can reach out to Chris@masonkay.com. Gem quality jadeite jade is geologically rare and can vary drastically in appearance. Evaluating jade quality should always be done in person, not through a photograph, but this video will nonetheless help you build a frame of reference. All of the pieces that we'll be examining today are jadeite jade, not nephrite jade. The quality factors we'll be discussing today are color, translucency, texture, and cut. It is a combination of these factors, along with size and matching, as in the case of beads, that determine the value of a piece. Let's talk about Imperial Jade. This is a carving of a gourd, and it looks yummy. I always say if the jade looks delicious, then you know it's good jade. Imperial is the highest quality of jadeite jade. It's defined more by experience than by a written definition, as you kind of have to see it to know what it looks like. Just describing it really isn't enough. Imperial jade has high translucency, dark green color, and even texture. The term imperial can be used for the highest qualities of other colors of jadeite as well, though it typically refers to green. It's important to note that Imperial Jade represents a range of jade quality. There is not a fixed price range associated with Imperial Jade, but for the education of this channel's viewers, I will say that it's not to be thrown around loosely, and typically Imperial does not apply to Jadeite Jade below around $50,000 or so. Imperial Jade can fetch hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, but I must mention that this particular pendant here is not in that price range. It's still under $100,000. I say that to explain that Imperial Jade can be much finer than this, but of course, all Imperial Jade is rare. I think it helps to have a little bit of reference. So here's a comparison side by side. The ring on the left here features a fine apple green jade stone, but it wouldn't be considered imperial. While the color is fantastic, notice the dark green hue, it doesn't have the inner glow that is necessary to be considered imperial. The platinum jade earrings on the left here are considered near-imperial instead of imperial. And I think the reason why doesn't really come through on the camera. In person, it's easier to see that while the stones in these earrings are exceptional, dark green, great translucency, even texture, they don't quite have the inner glow that Imperial Jade has. Inner glow is a characteristic that is difficult to describe. And while it can be faked on camera, it's best seen in person. Some sellers will strategically use manipulative lighting to fake a jade stone's internal glow. So be cautious of photos and videos when shopping. I wanted to answer a question that I've actually gotten many, many times. And the question is, does the term imperial mean something different in the context of Guatemalan jade? And the answer is yes. I cite Fred Ward in his very famous book on jade, and actually many other works on jade explain that in Guatemala, there is a different use of the term imperial. Now, it's worth mentioning that imperial as a quality term for jade did predate the discovery of Guatemalan jadeite jade. However, if you understand that they're defined differently, it can prevent possible confusion. So basically, when it comes to Burmese jades or really just non Guatemalan jadeite jades, imperial as a quality term, especially from the jewelry industry, like the trade perspective, has a very specific definition of being high quality jadeite jade. However, you may see some Guatemalan sellers referring to an array of green jades as imperial, even if they're not the same quality as sellers of Burmese jadeite jade, may use the term imperial for. I'm not sure if that quite made sense. But basically, somebody reached out to me one time and they said, hey, there's a Guatemalan seller calling it imperial. It's obviously not. Is that sketchy? And the answer is no. Like, it's not sketchy. You just have to approach it recognizing that, like, in Guatemala, there is a different definition for the term imperial. I don't know if it has to do with like a transliteration between Spanish and English. I'm not really sure where it came from, but it doesn't mean that the seller is trying to be misleading. It's usually in that context, the trade term just means something different. I will say though, when you're shopping online, if you see, like, it's hard to explain, but if you see what looks to be too good to be true pieces, like let's say it does look like it's imperial, but it is only $1,000 or $2,000, that is a red flag. And what that probably is, in a lot of cases, is either treated jade or a jade simulant posing as natural, utilizing the term imperial to try and command a higher price. But keep in mind that if it is truly imperial by the American jewelry trades definition, it won't be $1,000. So I hope that answers that question, which again, I've had that question a lot and it's a totally legitimate question. If you have more questions to that effect, please leave them in the chat and I'd be happy to discuss this further. But if you're shopping from a seller of Guatemalan material and they're using the term imperial, don't be concerned about that. They're not doing anything wrong. So let's go ahead and talk about jade color terms. So this is actually from the Mason-Kay website. If you visit masonkay.com, you'll see these color terms, which refer to jadeite jade, not nephrite jade. There isn't a universal color grading system for color gemstones. So keep in mind that sellers use different terminology from each other. For instance, some sellers use the term kingfisher jade when referencing a particular quality of jade. While this is totally legitimate, I personally don't use this word. And that's just because it's not really a part of my professional vocabulary. Jadeite jade is actually called fei choy in China, which is a word used to refer to the kingfisher bird. So, in my opinion, that particular term might be a little bit confusing, but another seller might use it as a quality term, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as that seller is defining it and can explain it. It's a good way to communicate with that seller about the different qualities that they offer. And I would love to do another video like diving into this in regards to nephrite as well. And this is going to be probably an even simpler way to explain this grand concept. In nephrite jade, you'll sometimes have A jade, double A jade, and triple A jade, and even like B jade in the case of nephrite, which refers to a quality, not a treatment. So in jadeite jade, B jade means it's treated, but in nephrite jade, B jade or B quality might actually refer to just like a commercial quality of nephrite jade. Every seller is going to have their own standards that define A, double A, and triple A, and B and C, whatever their like system is. And there's going to be disagreement between sellers because they've developed an internal grading system based on the highest standard of quality of their material. So keep in mind that triple A quality nephrite jade from one seller is not going to be the same as triple A quality nephrite from another seller. And in general, that applies to pearls. That applies to a lot of different gemstones because there's not really a grading system for gemstones. I should mention before we get too far into this that everything shown in this video, as with everything that Mason-Kay sells, is natural, meaning untreated. No dyes, no polymer impregnation, no backing, no treatment. If this video has helped you, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the Jot channel. And for those of you watching this live, don't forget to ask all of your jade questions in the chat. I am here ready to answer them. And if you have some jade in your collection that you'd like to show and tell, be sure to join our Discord server. The link is in the video description. So another question that I get quite a bit is, why is treatment considered a negative thing in jade when it's pretty common in other stones? And I like to use emerald as an example because emerald is typically treated. It's pretty unusual to find an untreated emerald, and when they are untreated, they might be more valuable because of the rarity, right? So typically emerald is fracture filled, and that's to create stability in the emerald and to make it more wearable. In the case of jade, treatment does not create stability. It does not make jade more wearable. It actually does the opposite. So when we talk about treatment in jade, we're typically referring to the uses of dyes and either polymer, wax, or resin impregnation. So these types of treatments are not stable, meaning that the color might not be permanent. They can cause the jade to be brittle, as in the case of polymer, wax, or resin impregnation, which uses like force, and it uses high pressure to push those materials into the fractures in the jade, further expanding the fractures and weakening an already brittle material. Because in the case of treated jade, the original genuine jade that they took and treated was actually very, very, very low quality. Like, it wasn't wearable quality to begin with, and then they made it worse with the treatment. Natural jade is extremely tough. Both jades, Jadeite Jade and Nephrite Jade, are highly, highly durable, with Jadeite Jade in fine qualities being up to 24 times harder to break than a diamond, and Nephrite Jade in fine qualities being up to 48 times harder to break than diamond. So the treatments making a stone brittle sort of damage the reputation. And also, when you have treated jade and you don't know it, you expect it to be tough and you sort of handle it that way. And that's why a lot of customers of treated jade will accidentally break their jade within the first year or two, especially if they're used to wearing regular jade, because it just doesn't hold up to day-to-day wear. For instance, if you work at a desk, simply hitting your treated jade bangle on the desk is enough to break it. So, oh, and there's one more thing. In the case of treated jade, it's been acid bleached. So there have been cases. I don't like to say this a lot just because I don't know that this would happen to you, but like, there have been cases where acid bleached jade before being polymer impregnated keeps some of the acid in it, and then it will leak out onto the wearer's skin. And I've even seen YouTube videos where people say they can smell the acid, and that just really bothers me. Like, I just don't love that. So there's a lot of negatives to treated jade, and there's only positives to natural jade. Natural Jadeite Jade has stable color. It is really tough. It's not going to smell funny. So keep that in mind, that if you are shopping for natural jade, and especially if you're looking for fine or if you're looking for imperial, like, it is so important to get a guarantee from a trustworthy seller that the jade that you're buying is untreated. So let's go ahead and move on. Can you guys guess how much this bracelet costs? I'll reveal it in a minute. Is Erica here? Erica, are you in the chat? I want to know what your guess is. The metal for this bracelet is 14 karat gold, and the diamonds weigh 2 karat total weight. This is not Imperial Jade. It's an excellent color, though, a very desirable green. The surface is smooth and glassy, but it doesn't have a strong inner glow. Hey, Erica, I'm so happy that you're here. I would love to hear your guess. I would love to hear anybody's guess. How much do you guys think this bracelet is worth? I wanted to talk, see the pen light here? I wanted to talk about this. I want to warn customers about sellers using pen lights to sell their jade. It's a completely legitimate practice. I do it. Showing photos or videos of light shining through the jade, I just want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with it. But I fear that some customers get the wrong impression about a jade stone when they see sellers shining the light through it, because it makes most jade look like super translucent. High translucency can be seen without shining a light through the stone. I want that to be clear. And while using a pen light or a gem light or a flashlight or whatever you want to call it can give you a decent idea of how the jade stone might look in sunlight, it won't look like that all the time. So on camera, shining a light through a jade stone makes it look really amazing. And I just want your takeaway from this to be that the translucency of jade can be seen without a light, and the light really is so that the customer can see if there are any fractures in the stone. Internal fractures are pretty normal in jade. They come from its metamorphic formation, not necessarily surface damage, but they can be telling of potential problems in the future if you kind of know what you're looking for. If you're shopping with a trustworthy seller, they have really closely examined the pieces of jade that they're selling. So, as in the case of Mason-Kay, they're examining to see if there are fractures, and if there are, is it going to harm the durability of the stone? So, if it's like a pretty deep fracture and it goes all the way across, from like one side to another, a seller like Mason-Kay is probably not going to sell that piece, or if they do, it's going to be appropriately priced given the condition that it's in. But again, I really don't think Mason-Kay sells stuff like that. So being able to lean on the seller and trust them and know that they have already really closely examined this piece goes a long way. But it never hurts to check yourself with a light. Just know that when you see people using the light on jade, that's really what they're doing. Like, they're really trying to see what's inside, how durable is it going to be, and not that fractures are always bad, but it's good to know where they are, how far they reach, how close they are to the surface, etc. Okay, did you guys guess the cost of the bracelet? I'm gonna check. Okay, so Erica says $8,000. Kimberly guessed 1,100. Nia guessed 10,000. $10,000 is the correct answer. So, isn't that fabulous? So, yes, this is a $10,000 piece. I still think $8,000 was also a really, really good guess. The reason that this is 10 is that 2 carats worth of diamonds really kind of pushes it over, if that kind of makes sense. It's a decent amount of gold. The jade stones are just phenomenal, but I think it's the carat weight of the diamonds that kind of like inches it up just a little bit in price. So great guesses, guys. Awesome, awesome job. Let's go ahead and move on. The color of the jade on these earrings is excellent. Great green color, still very valuable. What keeps these from being considered imperial? It would not be appropriate for a seller to call these imperial. They don't have even texture. You can see a gradient in each stone, which I think certainly adds to the uniqueness and the allure while keeping the price down. And they're opaque. But the color here is very desirable, very hard to come across. I would call this apple green. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous, but not imperial. I would definitely not call this imperial. These jade stones as well have excellent color. They're missing the translucency and texture, the inner glow, right, of Imperial Jade. Hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of just how rare Imperial is. It's hard enough to find natural jade in this color. This is a great color. This is really a lot of times what we're looking for is that rich green. It's so much more rare to find natural jade in this color that's highly translucent without noticeable inclusions. So just to kind of give you guys an idea. Can you guess how much these beads are? Throw out your prices in the chat. I want to hear what you guys think. Let's talk about judging bead quality. When judging bead quality, how well the beads match is a huge factor. We've talked on the channel about the importance of pearls matching. Jade is the same way. These beads are highly translucent, which you can tell in person even without the light, and the surface is fantastic, very glassy luster. The size of these beads also contributes to the price, which is honestly not very high in the realm of fine jades. I mean, this is definitely fine. This is higher quality than, well, it's also beads, so it's kind of a different category, but it's higher. It's much nicer than the earrings that we were just looking at, and those were nice, but the apple green color in these really pops. What keeps these from being imperial is, I think, pretty obvious. They don't have an even dark green color. They're translucent, but they're still mottled. This is still an exceptional strand. Jade does not have to be imperial to be incredible. These really are fantastic and have just an incredible color. And we're going to look at another strand in a minute that are similar in color, but smaller. So are you ready for the price reveal? Let's check the chat and see what everybody guessed. Erica thinks $25,000. Let's see. $55,000. I told you it was an exceptional strand. So these are large beads, excellent translucency. This is honestly something I think I've only ever seen one strand quite like this. And that's part of why it's sometimes hard to sort of estimate the prices on pieces like this, is because a lot of times they're really kind of one of a kind. Like if this strand were to sell and a customer wanted to get something similar, it would be really, really hard, if not impossible, to track down something like this. The beads on the strand that we just looked at were around 12.5 millimeter, but the beads on the right here are 6.5 to 10 millimeter. So similar translucency and color, but much, much longer. The other strand was on adjustable cord. It was fewer but larger beads, but this strand is 30 inches long. Which one do you think is more expensive? How much do you think this strand is worth? Let me know in the comments which one you think is more expensive and how much you think the strand on the right is worth. And if you have any questions at all about jade, please leave them in the comments. I love to answer your questions. One of the questions that I just remembered that I got recently that I wanted to bring up, because I think it's important to talk about, somebody asked, can I wear my jade in the summer? Yes, definitely yes. I think the customer had a concern about like heat being I guess like heat exposure on the stone. Um, for the most part, I would never recommend wearing any gemstone that can't be worn in the summer. And to be honest, I don't think there is a gemstone. I don't think there's any gemstone that can't be worn in the summer. There are gemstones you can't like put in the oven. But other than that, if it's a gemstone and if it's in jewelry, it's meant to be worn no matter what the season is. So I wanted to draw some attention to that. And then also, when it comes to heat and jade, yes, jade can take some heat. However, it's important to protect your jade. Remember that it's still jewelry. Remember that it's still a gemstone, and don't expose it to too much, right? So for instance, jade oftentimes, if it's like a cabochon in a ring, is glued in. If you take that ring and you put it in a hot ultrasonic, the heat from the ultrasonic and the moisture, right? Because there's like solvent in there. Maybe not solvent, but like a cleaner, like Mr. Clean or something, can sort of like disintegrate that glue, that epoxy that's holding the stone in. So we don't recommend putting jade in the ultrasonic for that reason. And we also don't recommend putting jade in the ultrasonic in case it has a beeswax coating, because the Mr. Clean or whatever's in the ultrasonic can actually take off some of that beeswax coating as well. So while yes, you should be careful with your jade and you should treat it with the same respect that you treat other jewelry, it is definitely okay to wear in the summer, with the caveat of don't sweat too much in your jade if it's low quality. And I don't mean low quality to be, I'm not trying to be offensive or insulting, but if it has large crystal sizes, it's opaque and pale, then it might absorb color from your sweat a little bit easier. So I'm not saying don't go outside in the summer with your light, pale, opaque, large crystal size jade bangle on, but maybe don't get in the sauna, right? Don't get in the sauna with your pale, large crystal size, opaque jade bangle on. So I hope that helps if you were having that question, if you were also wondering if you can wear your jade in the summer, that is my very long answer. Okay, what do we think about these two fine strands? Ooh, the chat got away from me. Erica says that the first one is more valuable. Kimberly says that the right may be more expensive because of the length. This is a really tricky one, just so you guys know. And then Erica says, second one, because it's harder to match more beads. Yes. Okay. And then Nia, I guess left still more expensive. Guess right is like $40,000. These are amazing guesses. Wow, I love how hard you guys are thinking about this. It really is kind of complicated. So it's time for the reveal. Wait, how do I computer? Aha, now it's time for the reveal. So this is the strand from the right. This is a $45,000 strand. And if you remember, the larger beads on the shorter adjustable strand, that was $55,000. Does that sound right? Hold on. Let me double check. That's what this says. Maybe that is right. I'm going to double check and I'm going to leave it in the comments because this was tricky and I remember this tripping me up and I want to make sure that I wrote the number right. So sorry, guys. So yeah, $55,000 on the large beads, and then I'm thinking $45,000. That's what it says on the longer strand. And the longer strand, again, was 30 inches, but smaller beads, and it definitely makes a difference. Jeff is here. Jeff says uniform size is rare in this quality. Excellent. Jeff Mason is the owner of Mason-Kay. He is a graduate gemologist and he really knows his stuff. He has been working with Mason-Kay for a very long time. He's the co-owner. He does all of the testing and valuing at Mason-Kay. So he is here to help me when I get confused, which does happen. I do get confused from time to time. It's late. I had a very long weekend. And then Erica, I should trust my first instinct. Oh my gosh, Erica, you are doing great. Don't even. This is really hard. It's really hard to guess the prices. So this here is a 20-inch strand with beads graduating from 5 millimeter to 9 millimeter with a 14 karat yellow gold clasp. This is still a fine and unique strand, but it is not considered imperial quality. I love the texture on these. They kind of remind me of like tiger stripes. And the color is a little more of a blue-green. It's more unique. It's very noticeable. It's a strand that if you owned it, you would definitely like recognize it, I think, if you saw it amidst other jade beads, which is always kind of cool. Jeff also had another comment. Large bead size also makes a difference. Yeah, having larger beads, it's so hard to get large beads in good color and in good translucency. It's so hard to cut them out of the boulder because in a boulder, you're not going to have necessarily that much high quality jade. I mean, the high quality Jadeite Jade is so hard to come across no matter what. And so then to find enough of it to make a whole strand of matching large beads, it's almost shocking that it ever happens at all. And I'm not being dramatic. It really is kind of crazy. Okay, where were we? Are we on this one? Yes. How much do you think these are? Give me your best guess in the chat. I love these. They're almost creamy. The luster is just fantastic. I love these. These have good, even color and are very well matched, graduating from 5 millimeter to 9.5 millimeter, measuring 28 inches long with an 18 karat clasp. It's hard to come across jade like this. And it doesn't have the same translucency as the previous strand. Well, actually not the previous one, but the one before, the one we looked at before this. It doesn't have quite the same translucency, but the luster, it's so creamy. It's so delicious. I love this color. Let's see if we have any guesses. Nia guessed $20,000 and Erica guessed $15,000. So let's go ahead and reveal what the price is on this 28-inch long strand with graduated beads from 5 to 9.5 millimeter. $30,000. Such a beautiful strand. It's so hard to find a strand like this. And in fact, at Mason-Kay, this is the only one that they have that's like it. Like they don't have, it's so interesting. When you go into a jewelry store, you know, they might have like a few different gemstones where you might have quite a few amethysts that are really similar, or quite a few like citrines or blue topazes that are really, really similar. It's so hard to find two jade stones that are similar. And it's even more hard to find two strands of jade beads that are similar. Like really, really hard. Usually you don't even necessarily have something quite comparable in inventory at a single jewelry store. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of just how rare a piece like this is. What do we think this one is worth? This carving isn't valued as high as the bead strands that we just looked at, but heavens to Betsy, the translucency is just phenomenal. It's a thick piece, so even though it is translucent material, you can't really see my finger on the other side, but it's a great mix of watery and green colors. This is an estate piece depicting a carved mushroom, a coin, and a dragon and orb. Did we guess? How much do we think this one's worth? It's kind of a curveball because we were we were in the mindset of like really, really fine, high quality strands of beads. And this is a little bit more affordable while still being really fine, watery, great translucency. And it's a carving. So carvings are priced a little bit differently, obviously, than beads. Okay, we have some comments. Nia guesses $5,000 and Erica guesses $10,000. Are we ready for the price reveal? This one is $8,100. It's just gorgeous. I love the carving. I love the pop of green. And really, a lot of where the value of this piece comes from is the translucency, which you can see it. A lot of places have really, really good translucency. Like the dragon in the top left-hand corner is highly translucent. And then the color, it's a really rich, dark green color, especially on that bottom. You have I think two lingsies. You have the large lingsi in the lower half, and then you have the corner lingsi on the bottom right. That lingsi, that mushroom, that green is so rich and so gorgeous. This really is an exceptional piece. So the pieces that I've shown so far are all green because in Jadeite Jade, green is the highest valued color. The second highest valued color is lavender. As we're wrapping up the video, it's a little bit of a shorter one today, but don't worry, I'm coming back next week and we're going to be looking at black jade next week and it is going to be amazing. As we're wrapping up this video, I want to end with a few high quality, high value lavender jade strands. I have 3 lavender strands here. The one on the left is a mix of purple and white. Great color, but not even all the way across each bead. The middle strand is more pastel, but it's still a beautiful pink lavender. Large bead size, very well matched. The strand on the right is valued lower. It's more pale and more of a blue lavender in person. Though I have to say it shows up less blue on camera. And I wanted to bring this up because it's important to note that capturing Jade's lavender color is like extremely difficult on camera. When you're shopping for jade online, please keep that in mind. Lavender and blue colors of jade are rarely accurate in a photo, especially if you're only basing it on one photo. And it's best to see a lavender jade piece in multiple different lighting conditions. And don't be afraid. I should talk about this a little bit deeper. Don't be afraid to ask the seller to send you more videos, more photos. Ask them to send you a video of it outside and inside, under a table, like in a dark environment, in a bright environment. They'll be happy to do it if they're not drop shipping, right? If they actually have the piece in front of them, they'll be happy to do it. And also like if they don't have anything to hide, they'll be happy to do it. Don't feel like you're bothering them. If you were physically in a jewelry store, right? You would have the person in front of you. You could see it, you could hold it, you could ask questions about it, and they would be right there with you. You shouldn't have less of an experience just because you're buying online, right? The seller should want to take the time to work with you and to sell to you the same that a seller in a jewelry store would. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for more information. And then also, like, if it seems sketchy, don't shop with them. Don't shop with them. So let's go ahead and look at these 2 strands here. So these 2 are the highest value of the 3 that we looked at. Which of these 2 do you think is more expensive? Oh yeah, Nathan said a lot of lavender almost looks gray sometimes. I've definitely seen that. It depends on like the background and the lighting. Almost always it seems like lavender jade looks either way better on camera than it does in person or way worse